brought me on just as the best part of the song started. I just love it when that organ kicks in. Man, we're having a great time here in the studio. We're chit-chatting, we're talking, we're looking at books. It is, Al looks like he's got a library over there with as many books. And we have a lady that has written 4 books. 4 books?
Yes, 2 for clients and 2 for professional organizers.
So she's actually written books for professional organizers, which we are not. But that's why we have her here. Her name is Debbie Stanley from Red Letter Day Counseling and Consulting in beautiful Clinton Township. What kind of books you got over there, Al?
Well, actually, Jerry, I have 3 here today, and we're going to actually be giving 2 of those away. And if you have our number, why don't you shout out the number again real quick, Jerry, because it's behind me.
1-800-923-9385. Give us a call, and we're going to give a signed copy of Debbie's book away. So give us a call and ask about the book.
Our first book that we have is actually, it's called Organize Your Personal Finances in No Time, and which is by Debbie. And the other one is Organize Your Home in No Time. Little trend here. I can see there's some commonality in this, Deb.
Yep, there was a series, the In No Time series, and I actually had to make the title work because you can't get organized in no time at all. You can't do it overnight. So what I mean by the title is you're getting organized when you have no time. You're doing this in theoretically no time.
Okay, and Debbie, one of the things that I love when I saw your credentials and I met you, one of the things I was just fascinated with was the fact that you are a counselor for hoarding. And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started out in the professional organizing industry about 13, 14 years ago, and quickly I realized that there was this phenomenon of chronic disorganization, and I learned that often tied into mental health issues. So I could see that there was something bigger going on here, something that goes beyond the boundaries of the professional organizing industry. So I thought, well, I should go back to school and get a degree in counseling so I can really address this at the root of it. And so that's what I did. I went back and got a Master of Science in Mental Health Counseling, got my licensure, my credentialing there, so I can actually address chronic disorganization and hoarding when they have mental health components to them.
Can you explain to me what exactly is hoarding?
Hoarding is an emotional attachment to objects, to papers. It's very symbolic. People think that hoarding is about having a lot of stuff, but true hoarding is not about the stuff. It's about the attachments to the stuff.
All right. And how long has this been going on? Is this something new? Is this something that has been happening a long time that we just didn't know about?
I think it's probably been happening for as long as people were able to accumulate more things than they could fit into their home, whether they were living in a cave or in a Victorian mansion or in the house down the street. But it hasn't been well defined. The word compulsive hoarding, the phrase compulsive hoarding, came into the research in the 90s, and it got onto TV a few years ago. So now hoarding is a buzzword, and like any buzzword, the definition is trying to catch up with what people think the word means. What it is it's not even defined in diagnosis yet. We don't have a diagnosis to apply to it, but compulsive hoarding is a series of behaviors where people are keeping more things than they have room for, or more things than they can afford, more things than they have the energy to take care of, and it's getting in their way in their home.
Or more things than they actually need. Now, I talked to Al this week, and he's actually watched the television show. I've not seen it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you saw there, what you learned on the hoarding show?
Well, my wife and I watch this show every week, and it's intriguing. And they typically have 2 different people on each show, and they have the therapist that goes in and talks to them, and the struggle that people have, as you said, the emotional tie they have to a paper bag is just amazing. And I guess what I don't understand is how you're able to get people through that, to be able to let go and not to repeat what they've done that's taken sometimes their whole lives.
Mm-hmm. It does often take a lifetime to accumulate. And as you can imagine, what you see on TV isn't reality. So there are some things that are depicted on the show that really aren't realistic. It takes far more than a few days to resolve a hoarded situation, if you're going to do it right. If you want to just go in and do a cleanup and traumatize the person and take all their stuff away from them, fine, do it in a weekend. But I don't recommend that. The right way to do this is to work with the person over time, sometimes over a period of years, to help them to understand what the attachment is and what they can replace it with so that they don't need to hoard objects.
All right. Now, when you're trying to help these people, do they seek help, or do the people around them seek help for them? And how would they find you?
It's both, actually. People who have pretty good insight, they recognize that there is a problem and that they need to make some changes, they'll reach out on their own. And they'll often self-refer through my website, which is debbiestanley.com. But I also get referrals from families, people who are very frustrated. They don't know what else to do. They've been trying to help mom or dad with this problem for a long time. Maybe they grew up in it, and now as adult children, they're really at the end of their rope. And they'll call for help. And they're able to reach me at 586-746-1428, or again through the website, debbiestanley.com. I also hear from doctors, therapists, people whose own clients have mentioned something about this, and they're calling me and saying, well, I think it might be what you call chronic disorganization. This might be hoarding, but I don't work in the client's environment, and I know that you do, Debbie. So how can we work together to work with this person in their home?
So when you were in junior high, you woke up one day and you said, you know what, I want to be a chronic disorganization helper.
No, it was more like I wanted to be what you do, Jerry-O. I got my bachelor's in journalism, and that's where the writing background comes from. So it's a nice tie-in that I'm able to write books because of that. And went into journalism, did that a little bit. Went into publishing, did that a little bit. Got an industrial psychology, my first master's. And then when mental health counseling became part of what I needed to do for organizing, that's how I got here. So, no, professional organizing as an industry hasn't existed for all that long, only about 20 years. And the mental health side of it is very, very rare. To my knowledge, I'm the only person so far who has gone from professional organizer to licensed counselor to address this problem.
I was really impressed by your education. I mean, a master's of science, a master's of arts in industrial organization, journalism major. It's something where you have a great amount of knowledge that you've accumulated, and it's something where I think that hats off to you for dedicating what you do to help people in this situation.
Well, thanks. It's a nice eclectic mix. It all feeds into giving me a good perspective to look at a problem from different angles.
And I guess a question I have is that, what are the symptoms? What are the things we can look at to try to identify this? Is this something where people that just don't want people coming to their house? They never want company over? I mean, what are the things that are signs that we could potentially be looking at to help friends or possible family members?
Mm-hmm. And, it's a hard thing. People think, they don't want anybody over. They want to be alone in their home. And that's not the truth. But people who hoard or people who are embarrassed of the state of their home, they feel ashamed to have anyone over. And so it is isolating. They do sometimes lose friends. Family members get into the habit of not coming over. And then, 20 years down the line, they're very much alone. So the first thing and the most important thing is to have empathy for what this person is going through, even if this looks bizarre to you, even if the idea of having newspapers stacked to the ceiling throughout your house is bizarre. Try to understand that there is a reason for it. There is a logic to it, to this person. This is not something that we should be shaming and ostracizing.
Okay. And a question. We probably could do 2 hours on this. Are one of the things that you see with these people that they start being loners and they're not going out and you can't get them out of the house?
Sometimes if they're able to stay in the home, if they don't need to go out for employment, then yeah, they will self-isolate and they'll stay in the home, which isn't a healthy thing. Everybody needs to be in contact with their social network. And I don't mean by Facebook, that's not enough.
Sure.
We need physical in-person contact. But it's interesting that hoarding is a type of compartmentalizing when we're looking at it from a cognitive perspective. People are able to step out of their home and step into a very different life. They go to work. My clients are intelligent people. They're professional. They're very skilled in what they do. And it's a different world when they step out the door. And when they come home, they're back in this compartment. They might be thinking of it as their fortress, their safe place. And mentally, they're in a very different place.
What do you see as far as the research that you've done on the kids? Are they very likely to repeat that?
Sometimes people do repeat. Sometimes it, quote unquote, runs in the family, not in a genetic way, but in a learned way. Sometimes people will have the opposite reaction, and when they grow up and they have their own household, then they're very Spartan, militant about having a low level of belongings and having their spaces and their surfaces clear. So we can see it go both ways.
Right. And so we're not talking about somebody that's just a slob. We're talking about somebody who's accumulated a lot of stuff. And I think there's a difference. I mean, I think we all know people that are just slobs. And that's not what we're talking about at all here. These are people that have a mental illness, really.
Well, true. And, it's hard when we use words like slob and lazy, and these are all the pejoratives that people who are chronically disorganized and people who hoard are so afraid of. They do internalize this problem. They do feel guilty about it. They feel like it's a character flaw, which it's absolutely not. But if there is emotional pain attached to it, then no, it's not just somebody who is happy to be sloppy and messy and wallowing in a messy environment. No, often people who hoard don't like having things out in sight. It's overwhelming to them. You would think it'd be just the opposite, but it's so overwhelming that they don't know where to begin in the space. They don't know what to do to clear it.
Well, I think one of the things that I really want people to be able to do is to understand how they can reach out. And I'd like you to give your contact information again so that people can get a hold of you and can learn more about what you do.
My website, again, is debbiestanley.com. It's Debbie with I-E, and Stanley like the cup. And there's a lot of information on there, a lot of FAQs. I like to give people as much information up front as I can so that they can make an informed choice about me. And my phone number, again, is 586-746-1428. I'm based in Clinton Township. I do most of my work on site with my clients. For clients who are geographically distant from me, I'm able to work by phone and to bring in a professional organizer who is local to them, and we can work as a team. I do have some in-office hours in Clinton Township, but really hoarding is something that has to be addressed in the environment in order to be addressed properly. So most of my time is on the road.
That's pretty interesting that you want to go right there and talk and see and point. Yep. And are you trying to rationalize with them, or what are you doing?
Well, I'm understanding the environment from their perspective, and I'm right there in it. And I'll tell you, frankly, they respect the fact that I will come out. I've had clients who in the past, before I was a therapist, said, my counselor would never come out and see this. They'd be afraid to come in here. They don't want to wade knee deep into my stuff. So I appreciate that you do that. It gives you a lot of street cred when you're willing to go into the environment and work with the person there. I mean, that proves that you're not going to be judgmental about it.
Right. And I think that's really a huge part of it, is being supportive and being positive about what you're seeing and not making any comments or say anything. Because I think there would be that humiliation or that embarrassment that would be the biggest fear that people would have inviting you in.
Sometimes I'm the first person who's been there in 10 years. And people are exquisitely sensitive to the reaction that you have when you walk through the door. When I teach other clinicians about this, and when I teach professional organizers about this, I tell them, you have to be so careful in how you react. If you show any kind of disgust, you're going to do the person harm. You absolutely have to be able to empathize and understand that this is the reality, and this person is asking you for help, and so you'll be with them in it and make it better together.
Okay, awesome. I guess again, when you think about it from a economical standpoint, do you see any separation from poor people to middle class to rich? Is it universal as far as how it goes?
Hoarding is a problem that is universal socioeconomically. It's more noticeable in people of lower means because they're often in attached housing. They're in apartments, and so landlords will complain. There's simply less square footage for stuff to accumulate, so it becomes more noticeable more quickly in the person's lifespan. People who have wealth have staff to take care of this, so it's not as noticed. It doesn't become a problem because they have the means to keep acquiring, and they have the means to keep the things stored. Of course, it's not a good way to live, but it is not as noticed, and this is why people think that hoarding is a middle class or a lower socioeconomic class problem. But no, it's absolutely universal.
So there's actually people that actually have storage units with their hoarding?
Some people have multiple homes to store their things.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had that much stuff. Well, I guess we won't have to worry about that much. Debbie, I want to thank you very, very much for being here. This is quite interesting. We're going to post some stuff on our Facebook, Networking Squared, for you to get a hold of her. And once again, your website is?
DebbieStanley.com.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.